My name is Sean Lacey. I'm the Research Integrity and Compliance Officer from Munster Technological University, and I'm delighted to be and I'm honoured to be actually sharing this afternoon's launch on behalf of the CORRIE team. And what I'll do now, before we kick off and maybe just kind of give an overview of what CORRIE actually is, I'm going to actually introduce the team members that we have. So first, Dr. Tom Farley.
Hello. So I think probably everybody knows me now, but as I said, I'm currently on the N-TUTOR project as an academic developer, but also of relevance to this role here, I'm the co-chair of the MTU Research Ethics Committee.
Perfect, thank you, Tom. Dr. Tara Doherty next.
Hi everyone. So I mentioned my name is Tara Doherty and I am based in ATU and I'm based on the Donegal campus. So I'm the research support officer in ATU, and some of my role involves looking after the ethics committee in ATU Donegal, as well as delivering some modules on ethical issues in research as well. And I've worked with Sean over the past number of years on research integrity training, as well as part of our CERT training group.
Super, thanks very much, Tara. Dr. Anya DeRushta.
Hi everyone, I'm the other co-chair of the MTU Research Ethics Committee. I'm a psychologist and senior lecturer in social care as well here in MTU Cork.
Perfect, thank you, Anya. And last but not least, Dr. Suzanne Murphy.
Thank you. I'm very delighted to be here and very, very happy to be part of this team. I am, as you said, Dr. Suzanne McMurphy. I am an associate professor in sociology at the University of Windsor. I am also the research ethics board chair at the University of Windsor, and I started our Office of Research Ethics. I became part of this project. I met Tom when he was a visiting fellow at the University of Windsor with Nick Baker. And Tom and I hit it off really well and had very similar approaches to research ethics and decided this would be a great opportunity to work together. So I'm happy to be here.
Super, thanks very much, Suzanne. And so the plan for, I suppose, for today, this will be kind of short, but I suppose let's just kind of give a background to who CORRIE are, how do we come about? And essentially, we've come about mainly thanks to the N-TUTOR Digital Learning Resources funding. Like that's what actually brought us together. But Tom will speak to the background to how ATU, MTU, and then University of Windsor came together, the objectives of CORRIE and our actual work plan. Then Tara and Suzanne are going to speak to the resource content that we plan on developing over the course of this project. And then Anya is going to close with the additional outputs that we have as part of the CORRIE team, along with having, I suppose, allowing time for questions, feedback, and suggestions from yourselves as well. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to Tom, who's going to give a small bit of a background to how our three universities would have come together for this project. Over to you, Tom.
Hi, thanks very much. So, yeah, so obviously, we have myself and Anya and Sean are based at MTU. And as I said, Sean is the Research Integrity and Compliance Officer, the RECO. And as we said ourselves already, myself and Anya are the two co-chairs. But also, as I said, like, we're very keen on the whole collaborative effort of it. So with ATU, with Tara being involved there, and she would have quite a history of being involved with Sean there. So I said on the CERT, so they've collaborated a lot. So we're building on sort of established relationships there, which gives us a sort of a national spread around the country, not just into one place. And the other one then with the University of Windsor, thanks to my visiting open fellow, thanks to Nick Baker in the University of Windsor. For those of you who don't know it, it's actually below Detroit. It's that little finger of Canada which sticks way down into the United States. So I had an opportunity to spend a few weeks there, and part of that I linked up with Suzanne, and as Suzanne said, we hit it off enormously. It was a bit like a sort of a counselling support group for research ethics chairs, and sort of sharing our expertise and sort of insight and the hard lessons as well. And I think, you know, we were definitely keen that we were going to explore opportunities to collaborate. And thanks then to the DLR funding call with N-TUTOR. And I think it just sort of testifies, you know, sometimes you often have people who are keen to work together, but they need a bit of a spark or something to coalesce around. And the funding from the N-TUTOR project enabled us to sort of try and sort of capture, all of the expertise, the experiences that we've drawn upon for years. We've all had a long experience in different research ethics capacities. So it gave us that opportunity then, like, how can we sort of share some of this knowledge and insight? One thing that ties us all together in the CORRIE group is we're not interested in ethics being like the sword of Damocles hanging over somebody's head. I mean, ethics should be about there to sort of improve the experience, make it and protect the participants, yes, but also the researcher and the universities themselves. So, but it's there, it's supportive. So we're saying then, so what are we going to do? So then we scoped it out there. So we're just moving on then to the next slide then, and sort of, the objective then is to draw upon our as I said, collective wisdom and experience, and drawn on experiences and making them into resources which can be shared, that insight. So ostensibly in terms of the DLR, the digital learning thing, it's going to be built in Articulate Rise, which is a really nice, very intuitive software package which enables us to make something which is self-contained units. Within them we will have asynchronous videos, embedded resources there. So the whole idea is to have something there which people can jump into. You can either look at the entire unit or specific resources as you go along there like that. So obviously we're not going to be breaking any sort of integrity issues or at all there, but sort of the sharing the collective issues that we've seen in different places over the years. And I suppose by having that Irish experience there across a couple of universities and the international experience, I won't embarrass Suzanne, but she has enormous wealth of experiences. But as I said, we're just trying to sort of point the way and provide a set of resources for people in something that's accessible and tangible and realistic. So our plan of action and our plan of work now that we're faced with here, so our work plan, phase one is the initial planning, and in many ways today it's the sort of the topping out ceremony and sort of drawing it together and pulling the planning together. So our next phase then, like, as I said, after this then, is actually to develop those resources. And as I said, I think that's going to be a bit of a fun part. And then I said the big thing then is testing with students both in Canada and in Ireland. So we're happy then that people will be able to see it and staff will be able to see it and to evaluate there. And then, please God, then the resource launch. But as I said, one thing that we're all committed to as well is an open access, openness. And I suppose the N-TUTOR funding has enabled us to do what, I suppose what we want to do is walk the walk as well as talking the talk in terms of a commitment to sharing open science and open practice. So I'll now hand you over to Tara, who will take you through the next section.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tom. So I'm just going to speak to some of the resources that we are proposing to develop and some of the different areas that we hope to provide information and content on. So we're going to start firstly, to set the scene, to discuss the principles of research integrity and research ethics. We're going to discuss what these are and how they can be applied to your complete research journey and why they're important. What's important about this as well is to remember that ethics applies across the board from the start to the finish of your full research journey, and it's not simply completing an ethics application and being done with it. So we are going to talk about some of the other areas where ethics and integrity applies. So the next, one of the examples of what we'll look at is data storage and data management, and why it's important that these are conducted ethically and with research integrity at the forefront as well. The next one as well is that dissemination is a really important part of the researcher's journey. It's important that we communicate our research through conferences and through publications, and that it's done in an ethical manner, and how we can be mindful of this and things that we need to be aware of. Then we're going to move a little bit more then into the way we can apply ethics and integrity to our research study itself. And there's a number of key things there that we will look at, and the most important part of this process is the protection of the research participants and things that we need to know and understand in order to do that. So we'll start firstly looking at the whole informed consent process and why that is very important, and to make sure that we, we work with our research participants, that they understand what they are getting involved in, that they participate voluntarily, and that they know that there is a right to withdraw from the research process as well at any stage if they don't feel happy to continue or they don't want to continue. So it's understanding how this whole process can be done ethically, and that we have the tools and resources and information to hand in order to do that. So that's sort of where we look to start. I'm going to hand over to Suzanne now as well to talk you through some of the other resources as well that we're going to look at.
Great, thanks, Tara. So I'm going to talk a little bit about vulnerable groups. That's when one takes a look at the kinds of special circumstances that individuals might be in, individuals that might be in vulnerable contexts or situations. And so we take into consideration their participation in a project and any special protections or any special considerations we need to make for those vulnerable groups as they're participating in our research projects. When we're looking at capacity to consent, we're looking at two things. We're looking at one's comprehension and one's ability to understand what they're participating in and make a decision in their best interests as to whether they should participate in a project. But we're also looking at their autonomy to consent, which is, are they under any undue influence, or do they actually have the capacity and the autonomy to be able to make a decision on their behalf? So we'll be looking at things like consent processes, consent forms in that resource area. And then evidence-informed practice, that's where we're taking a look at what kinds of different structures could be in place that might allow us to be able to test certain types of evidence-informed practice, what kinds of science are we bringing into our studies, and how are we organizing our protocols in a way that provides us with a structure that allows us to be able to reach the research objectives that we have set for our projects. And then finally, project design and community participant engagement. And that's where we might turn to the populations that we're going to be doing research with to get their advice or their contribution to how recruitment might take place, how consent might take place, contribution to the way the protocol is designed, and just ways in which resources might be utilized to engage participants around the different ways in which we're conducting our research and are designing our projects. So I'll turn this over now to Anya.
Thanks, Suzanne. So just looking at the areas of additional outputs. So in terms of considering the remit of the impact, we're thinking in terms of how the resources will be accessible not only to undergraduate students, but also to postgraduates, to staff and to other researchers as well. So again, the importance of making those resources as accessible and as user-friendly as possible will be a consideration in that impact. This will all then be considered and assessed in the research aspect of it. So this will involve an appraisal, again, of those resources, measuring the impact by seeking feedback across all the phases of the project, right to the end. And then in terms of training the trainer, the hope is to maybe develop guidelines or models about how the resources could be used and leveraged for those also in an oversight capacity, such as those involved in research ethics committees, and even for developing and for, what would you say, providing guidance in formulating research applications. Yes, so we again welcome feedback and any other points relating to research integrity and ethics, again, that you think would be desirable and would be beneficial to the project. We, of course, are very open to hearing. Thanks, Sean.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Thanks, Anya, Tom, Suzanne, and Tara for setting the scene there for the CORRIE project. And it's a project that we're very excited about, kind of a national and international collaboration, all made possible through the N-TUTOR Digital Learning Resource funding. So very much big thanks to N-TUTOR for the support as well, and the trust, I suppose, the faith that they put into us to follow through in what we put forward in our application as well for the funding. I suppose essentially the point to this, one part is obviously to launch CORRIE but also it's to kind of allow this kind of opportunity to get feedback. Like we have ideas to what resources may be useful, but we wanted to kind of pause before we go off and start developing these resources to maybe allow an opportunity for end users in various aspects to maybe feed into it, to kind of say, look, it's great you considered A, B, C, but what about D, E, F? And we can't, and we won't be able to do everything. This is a project, it's a short-term project, but hopefully CORRIE won't end when at the end of the DLR funding. It could be a project that can continue on if there additional funding could be applied for. So we are interested in your thoughts, in your suggestions, your feedback, and questions that you'd have that in what we're doing. Does it seem to be on the right track? Would it be something that is of interest to you, something that you feel that you'd use? Are we missing something? Is there something very obvious that we're missing? And we're very open that if there's something obvious we're missing, that we will try to prioritize it as best as possible as well. So it's really to open up open the floor to any kind of questions colleagues have, feedback or suggestions at all. No, that's, and look, it's great. I suppose the resource content you can see there, that kind of gives the flavor to what the aims that we have. And it's looking at, I suppose, we'll look at those principles of RI and research and ethics, and then feeding all the way up to dissemination of results. How do we deal with vulnerable groups, capacity for consent, and so forth. So that's great. No questions. Support for everyone, thumbs up from everyone all around, that we will be on the right track. And look, we appreciate that sometimes in an environment like this, people maybe feel on the spot, may be pondering away, reflecting afterwards, and may have another idea. You have the contact details for us. We're going to be, this recording is going to be will be uploaded to our YouTube channel afterwards. There will be contact details in the dissemination through the emails as well. So if it's a case that maybe not now that there's anything to add, but maybe later on that there's after a bit of reflection, there is a couple of suggestions that you have, we'd welcome that as well.
Yeah, no, I just want to echo that, because yeah, I appreciate sometimes when something is thrown at you, but as I said, that's useful then, like that, to get that sort of feedback from the wider community. And thanks. Yeah, we appreciate you giving up your lunchtime to come to the launch, and for us to get an opportunity to get out and acknowledge, as I said, coming together, and the importance of getting that funding. As I said, just in many ways it starts off from getting a bite to Canada, having this, and then it's funny how ripples come about and share best practice then like that. So yeah.
That's great. You can see there's nice comments there in the chat and the Q&A. That's all. That's brilliant. Thanks very much, everyone. Again, from us, it was just important to have this event both for the launch, but also as an opportunity just to touch base with colleagues, end users, to are we on the right track or not? Okay, so look, thanks very much, everyone. That's great. I think we can, if there's no questions, then I think we can leave it there. Super. That's brilliant. Thanks, everyone. And thanks very much for Lydia Biscup O'Flaherty for coordinating all this and the logistics behind the scenes as well. So thanks to Lydia for all that. Thank you, everyone.